It's Nelly. Nelly, where you at? I'm over here. Nelly, where you at? I'm over here. Shaq, where you at? I'm over here. Hey, Fife, where you at? I'm over here. Well, a win's a win, I guess. Doesn't really matter how you go about it. Wasn't, I wouldn't call it a work of art, but, tend to be all you do is you play them, you put one in the W column or the L column, and then you move on. And I think this is the slogan for me for the rest of the year for the Vikings. Just trying to survive to get to 2025. Because once we get to January, all bets are off, right? Then it's chip, chair, and a chance. It doesn't matter. You throw. What do you do, tend to be, when you get to the postseason?
You throw all the records out the window.
That's exactly what you do. It's gut check time. Your backs
it's win or go home.
That's it. That's exactly right. It's survive in advance is what it becomes. And so it really doesn't matter what you've accomplished leading up to the first round, be it the wild card round, the divisional round, the championship game, whatever the case may be. You just win, and the Vikings did exactly that. Before I talk about the particulars of the game today, because I learned this from the legendary Mark Rosen. Rosie says when he would go to football games, he would, when he would attend them in the press box, right, covering the game, he would have his notepad out and he would take little notes on the game so he'd have things to remind him of. And I've started to do that as well. And it's, when you work with the best, it's time to start learning like the best and working like the best.
Rubs off on you.
It kind of starts to rub off on me is what it really does.
That's why I've gotten lazier over the years.
Very good. And it shows. Though a lot of people love the montage today. I mean, there was one person that, of course, there's always a negative out there. Heart of a champion with that weak win. Well, it wasn't the strongest win ever, but you know what? We showed the heart of a champion.
We're 8-2. What else do you want?
Yeah. Stayed home from work due to an earache, but you can be darn sure I ain't missing the montage. Here's another. Awesome montage, Tenna. Here's another. I've decided to become a mason so I can repair all the brick walls I run through. So, there was a number of, here's one. Brick wall. Dead. Right? I like that one a lot. This one says, my wife recommended I wear a helmet to work today in case Tenna has a great Vikings montage and I need to run through the wall. I'm glad I took her advice. And then he asks, left play.
Left play.
Left play.
I always love that.
Can you find the PA left play? How long would it take you to dial that?
I know exactly where it is.
Oh.
You want the shortened version or the Tampa Bay part first?
Let's do the whole Tampa Bay thing.
Well, no, the original call was this.
Yes, Vikings ball, let's play. Let's play. Let's play.
And then we did, because we're in Super Bowls in Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay.
Let's play. Yes, Vikings ball, let's play.
Remember when it was, I just want to warn Vikings, because I know we have a heart of a champion, and I just want to remind Viking fans that it wasn't too long ago where we had the slogan, bring it home. Remember that in 2017?
Yeah.
We were going to be the first team ever to host the big game. It was scheduled to be at U.S. Bank Stadium. And we were close. We got to the NFC Championship game. And I know that the score was a bit lopsided, but we really weren't that far out of that game when you think about it. All we really needed to do to get back into it was a touchdown, 2-point conversion, an onside kick, touchdown, 2-point conversion, and an onside kick, touchdown.
Oh, wrong one.
Touchdown, 2-point conversion, and an onside kick. Before we talk in depth about the game, like I say, I did jot down some notes. I'm sure you did as well, tend to be maybe not, physically, but certainly mentally. You were there for the whole game. You're the master control supervisor. You heard the call. A game, again, that sort of like the week before, despite the fact that it might have been a little closer than you would want it to be. Again, those are two really bad football teams the Vikings played the last 2 weeks, and the games were probably a little bit closer than you would hope they would be. But, I saw the quotes in the paper. Hitman had it's a one-score game in this league, and everybody's good, and they all got Pro Bowlers and such like that. Well, yeah, sort of, kind of. For instance, with the Vikings only getting 4 field goals against the Jaguars last week, I thought the Lions might struggle putting the ball in the end zone. And I got to admit, I was a little disappointed. I mean, you get 7 touchdowns on your first 7 possessions, and on your 8th, you got to settle for a field goal.
Got to be frustrating for Lions fans.
Well, it is frustrating. I mean, that's diminishing returns. I mean, that's trending the wrong direction. Now, I get it. It was Hendon Hooker in the game, but Tennessee, it's supposed to be next man up. And so that's disappointing. I'm seeing some cracks.
Wasn't much of a cat fight there yesterday, was it?
No, it really wasn't. But I want to go to a quote that I did not hear that was uttered on these airwaves, apparently by the head coach of the soon-to-be big game world champion Minnesota Vikings. He was on with Paul Allen on the Paul Allen Project, and I became aware of it after reading a piece by Chip Scoggins, columnist extraordinaire for the Fish Wrap Factory West Side. We text and talk more than most people know. We'll get to that. We'll break down the game. There's plenty to get to today here on the Common Man program on the Fan. And Tennessee has a keyword.
We don't have a keyword today.
We don't.
Nope.
We're out.
Contest is over.
Contest is over for
now.
For now. But we'll be back. Trust me. We'll come back with more after this here on the Common Man program on the Fan.
The Fan.
You could win a family 4-pack of tickets to the St. Paul Ice Fishing and Winter Sports Show December 6th through the 8th at the St. Paul River Center. Shop the season's best deals, meet the pros, and register for a chance to win the ultimate ice fishing giveaway. Head to KFAN.com. Keyword contest to enter today. That's KFAN.com. Keyword contest.
Joe Bonamassa. I saw the billboard. The concert's this week, I think. So obviously, the promotional company behind it, I don't know who it is, they must not be making a radio buy from iHeart. I want to hear Joe Bonamassa. We're not going to get to hear it. Because that's the only way you don't go, hey, why don't you head on down to the arena and see Joe Bonamassa? It's Joe Bonamassa with vomiting rats. Maybe there's still time. I don't know.
Maybe they knew you'd give it free plugs the whole time.
Maybe that's it. You know, I'm not suggesting wholesale changes in Detroit from the top down. But if you're Ben Johnson and you want a head coaching job, you don't settle for a field goal on the 8th possession of the game. You gotta get another tutty. That's what you have to do. Peek at the Purple is brought to you each and every day, Monday through Friday, in the Common Man program by our friends at Affordable Electric. 30 years they've been around. They provided dependable, honest, 24-hour and same-day service ever since. And they'll give you an upfront, affordable estimate before starting any repair. Visit affordable-electric.com. And remember, Affordable Electric. They're shockingly affordable. I want to point to a Chip Scoggins column, Tennessee, and I told you, Chip and I text and talk more than most people know. This was back from November 16th, which would have been, is that Friday or Thursday? I don't have a calendar in front of me.
What day?
November 16th.
That's 2 days ago, so it's Saturday.
So it was Saturday. It was a Saturday piece that I read. The headline that accompanied Chip's piece said, Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell must crack the code of a complicated puzzle. He says, dealing, and then the subheadline, dealing with shell coverages and a quarterback who leads the league in turnovers means O'Connell's finding ways to adapt to new defenses while staying aggressive on offense. But what I found interesting about the piece was Chip quoted O'Connell from an interview he conducted with Barney the Purple Dinosaur. I'll read the 2 paragraphs. It says, O'Connell often mentions his preference to be aggressive as a play caller, regardless of circumstance, but he explained his reasoning for leaning more on the run in general that game, meaning our last game, because I think we ran the ball much more against the Jaguars than we had all season long. We had more runs. Matter of fact, I think, if I remember correctly, didn't we run the ball more in that game than any other game under KOC? I think that's what the statistic was. But he explained his reasoning for leaning more on the run in general that game during his weekly interview with KFAN's Paul Allen. Here's what he said. There's a layer sometimes where in my mind I'm trying to have some growth as a head coach. Not just the play caller, not just the egomaniac of wanting to score points and constantly show everybody how smart we are. there was a mode that I think you have to go into sometimes to ensure a victory. And that, to me, of everything that happened from the Paul Allen interview, which must have been Thursday or Friday, and then Chip wrote about
He interviews him every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
Yeah.
So since last Tuesday up until right now, to me, that's more important than anything. Because you and I have talked about that, Tenneby, where these coaches, and you and I, we don't personally talk to KOC. Maybe you do. I don't text or talk with him. So I can't get into his head. But I've always assumed, and I think he's admitting it there, that these coaches, they try to show off the ego. Like, look at me. Look at what a great play caller I am. Look at these exotic play calls I can come up with. Watch me do a double, triple reverse with a flea flicker here. Did you see the first play for Kansas City yesterday? Did you watch that?
Yeah, I saw that play.
That very first play where I can't even describe it really, and it only got him a handful of yards, but it was basically Mahomes spun around 360 degrees, two different directions. He went this way for a fake handoff, back here for another fake handoff, and then back around. I'm surprised he wasn't dizzy after that and had to come off the field for a play. Then he handed it to another guy. They're always trying to come up, and I think I've always thought that KOC was guilty of that, but I had no proof other than what I could see before my eyes. And he seems to be admitting it here, Tenneby, that he's growing as a coach where it's not like, I don't have to prove to everybody I'm from the McVay coaching tree and watch me now. Watch the genius play calling I do. Just, you got to adapt to the game. You and I talked about this. It was what we surmised after watching, what's Belichick's first name? Bill Belichick and Tom Brady do, where sometimes they would throw the ball a lot, sometimes they would run it a lot, sometimes they do both. Sometimes one guy would be the main target all game, or more so than others. And I'm not suggesting they're the only people, the only coaching / offensive coordinator / quarterback offensive unit that has ever done this. They all, I think, try to do it, but they just seem to be the very best at it. And maybe it was because they had Brady. But you take what they give you. So we talked about it as being a crossword puzzle. That's how I always, if you grab a crossword puzzle, Fish Wrap Factory, East or West, they get progressively tougher as the week goes on. The Monday one I can usually fly through in about 10 minutes. Tuesday, maybe a little. By the time I get to Friday, it's tough. New York Times, forget it. I can't even do a Monday. It's just really difficult because, well, not only do I have 4 years of college eligibility remaining, Tenneby, but I also have 2 of high school. My high school dropout. You know how? As a matter of fact, I'll give you an example. It was in 3rd grade. The teacher said, "Can anybody here in the class use the word before in a sentence?" I raised my hand. She said, "Nan." I said, 2 + 2 before. And so that was at that point.
Well, you also grew up in that Detroit educational system
we did,
as well.
Yes, which I think is changing now. But at the time, the way you learned to count in Detroit was 0-1, 0-2. 0-3, 0-4. I tried. It was during my sophomore year. I said, I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to really put my nose to the grindstone, and I'm going to try to work really hard and get good grades and become a good student and graduate, maybe get a scholarship offer and be a fine, upstanding young man. I think you'll do. Tuck up my hair up under my hat. And I studied for a test for 6 weeks. And when it came around, I still got a C on my hepatitis test. So they love that up at Flop, Sweat, and Tears, by the way. We brought the house down up at, want to thank the folks at Rockwood's Comedy Club up in Otsego. 2 young ladies had sweatshirts made with my face on it that said Otsego. Oh. They wanted to make sure I said it correctly. And you were right all along. I thought it was Otsego, but it is Otsego. So, but I like hearing that because because there was all this discussion about, you remember when it came down to the Vikings let Mike Zimmer go and Rick Spielman, and it seemed like it was Jim Harbaugh's
yes
job. right?
He was convinced he was getting it.
He was convinced he was getting it. I was convinced. I think, I don't know if he did a poll at the time of Vikings fans, but I think most people thought it was going to go to Jimmy Harbaugh. Then out of nowhere, rug gets pulled out from under him. They give it to the young guy, KOC. And I was at the time like, boy, it sure would be nice to have, Harbaugh proven commodity, blah, blah, blah. But it sure did. And then when you see KOC, he goes out to the outstanding 13-4 season. First year, head coach. All those incredible come from behind victories, like 9 games, I think we had to come from behind. Most of them in dramatic fashion. It was an exciting season. It was as an exciting Viking season as we've ever seen. And then, of course, it was just we laid an egg against the Giants in the first round of the playoffs last year.
Which, by the way, Daniel Jones finally got benched today.
He did. He's done so. 7-10, the Vikings went last year. And now this year, they're off to a terrific start. And I think maybe some of it is due in large part to a coach that is starting to learn that you got to take what the defense gives you. Even JJ said it in this same piece. He said, if teams just want to cover us deep and allow us to take everything short and allow the run game to explode, that's what we have to do. We can't get greedy and try to force passes into those shell coverages. And what was the biggest change in Sam Darnold's approach to the game yesterday? He took the advice I gave him on this very program and on Twitter after last week's loss. I said, don't force the ball into Jefferson. He didn't force any yesterday. Voila, no interceptions in a victory for the Vikings. Our Peek at the Purple brought to you by Affordable Electric. Go to affordable-electric.com. And remember, Affordable Electric, they're shockingly affordable.
KFAN and the Minnesota Vikings will be live from Shields at Eden Prairie on Tuesday, December 3rd for our annual Toys for Tots broadcast presented by Unreal. We will be collecting donations for Toys for Tots, 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m., and we need your help. You'll have the chance to enter to win great Vikings prizes, all while seeing your favorite shows live. Be sure to join us at Shields and Eden Prairie, benefiting Toys for Tots. More at KFAN.com, keyword toys.
Tend to be, to quote the legendary Brian Oak, who will join us for Rock Talk this Wednesday at 1:30. You don't have to like the way the Vikings are winning, but you have to respect their record, right?
Yeah.
I mean, last 2 weeks, we're 4-0 against the AFC. Is that the South, or is that?
That's AFC South, yes.
AFC South. We've had our way with the AFC South, though. It's, again, all 3 games were a bit of a struggle, but at the end of the day, tend to be, as long as you win, right? It sort of reminds me of the 13-4 year, though the 13-4 year, even though we had the dramatic comebacks in the closer games, that team felt more for real. I'm not suggesting this team can't be for real. I'm staking my claim to a spot in the parade route. Trust me, I want to do the skull with the best of them and with the rest of them. But while we have that gaudy record like we did then, this just seems like we're doing it by hook or by crook. And it's the defense that's, even though the offense is, Darnold was pretty good yesterday. I mean, he made some great throws. The tutty to Addison. Of course, Addison's wide open, but that's a good play call. He throws it on a laser. He was under pressure much of the game, which is a little disconcerting later. He was only sacked twice, 4 hits, but it seemed like he was scrambling quite a bit and throwing on the run, but he was good at it. And he didn't try to force it into Justin Jefferson. And JJ got his catches again. Was it 5 again? The week before it was 5 for 81. I think this was 5 for, it was 5 for 48 last week, I think. I don't exactly remember how many he had yesterday, but I could look it up. I saved the box score, the individual and team stats. Maybe you could look it up. But he got his catches, and a couple of longer ones, too. 20-plus catches. I think one was 30-something, and then something was 40-something, I believe. So, but it wasn't like, well.
He had 6 for 81.
6 for 81. And then what were his 2 long catches? I think he had 2 longer ones.
His long was 31.
31. And, you don't have to, Yeah, everybody, I know he break the record yesterday? He has the most yards in pro football history at this
Through 5 years.
Through 5 years. And we all love to see the splash plays to JJ, and we like to see JJ making a major impact in the game. But I'm telling you, folks, these other teams, you saw it 2 weeks ago. Doug Peterson. Is it Doug Peterson? Is he the Jaguars coach?
Yes. For now.
He said, he basically, I don't know if he said it verbally, but just by watching the game, they were saying, we're not going to let Justin Jefferson beat us. He's not going to be the guy that, if you beat us with your other wide receivers, your tight ends, your running game, your defense, whatever it is, your kicker, ended up being the kicker, we're not going to let Jefferson beat him. The Vikings had 5 sacks defensively, and they had no success running the football whatsoever. 33 yards rushing for the Titans yesterday. They averaged 1.7 yards per carry. They couldn't run the ball. Passing, Levis was 17 of 31 for 295 yards and 1 tutty. But 98 of those yards came on one play. That was that long touchdown pass, which is a little. And again, you win the game. I'm probably going to get people that are going to be annoyed. Well, we won the game. What do you complain? I'm not complaining. We're analyzing the game. They gave up pass plays of 98, 33, 30, 21, and 19. I don't know, 16, 15, 10. Those aren't big numbers, but those are some real chunk plays.
Well, I had 1 or 2 of them, too, that got called back from penalties.
The 51-yarder
was an illegal formation, yeah.
That was a 51-yarder for a tutty. And I know I'm going to annoy Viking fans. That was a borderline call. They said it last night during the telecast yesterday. And they wrote about it, Fish Wrap East West, I think it was in the Athletic as well, that's a point of emphasis with the league this year and the officiating crew is the illegal formation.
Yes.
That did appear to be a borderline call to me. And again, you take it. I know there's Viking fans out there, you're going to come back to me and say, we've been on the wrong end of bad calls. Of course you have. But you can't deny it. Also, I didn't think that the Mike Brown penalty was unnecessary roughness in the end zone, the pass to Addison. And that was a 3rd down play. That would have been the end of the, Vikings would have to settle for a field goal. Instead, they get 1st and goal from the 1 and they score.
4-point difference, yeah.
4 point, and I don't think that.
Clean hit.
It seemed like a clean hit to you.
Shoulder first.
Yep, I thought that was a clean hit. There was also the pass interference penalty on Brownlee against Jefferson, I believe, when it was late in the game still hanging in the balance. It was 3rd and 11. It was going to get the Vikings offense off the field and get Levis the ball back. They threw a flag. I didn't think that was a penalty. That was pretty iffy as well. But it is what it is. 13 penalties for the Titans, 91 yards. I think the Vikings had 2 penalties. So certainly I think
it was 13-3.
13-3.
Yeah.
So the penalties were certainly in favor. And, again, most of the penalties by the Titans were legitimate, but a couple were pretty iffy. But it is what it is. And you get the win and you move on with the rest of your life. The defense was very...
As Pete Bursich said yesterday on the Vikings Radio Network broadcast, sometimes the penalties go against you, like a face mask to the face against the Rams, and sometimes go your way. Today, they're going our way.
Yeah, that's the way it happens sometimes.
But it is a good reminder to fans who just go bonkers off of a flag that affects their team in a negative way, that there are times that it goes the other way as well.
And I think all fans of all stripes, whether it's football, baseball, hockey, basketball, whatever the sport may be, you always tend to forget the calls that are blown that favor you, but you always remember the ones that affect you in a negative way. You always remember those ones, and then you start thinking, we never get a call. They how many times you hear they have it against the Vikings? We're cursed. No, they don't. I mean,
flyover country.
Yeah, flyover country.
Small market.
It's just the way it is. But they did the things they needed to do yesterday, and again, defensively, as I mentioned, Vikings had 5 sacks, held the Titans to 33 yards rushing. And the last 3 Tennessee possessions, I think twice they tried to go for it on 4th down, and we snuffed them out. And then it was the interception by Hitman to wrap up the game. And what was the stat they put up about Hitman? Did you see it on the telecast when you were watching? Because I'm assuming you're watching the game as you're listening to it. Hitman is among 6 or 7 other players that has, God, what was that number?
It was the sacks and interceptions.
Yes,
stat.
that's exactly the sacks and interceptions thing. And, I guess sometimes I do forget what a terrific career Smith has had. I mean, I know it's been good, but until you see a stat like that jump right out at me and go, because he's up there with some of the legendary names of the game in that statistic with it, a certain amount of sacks and a certain amount of interceptions. And,
I do think if he was more of a self-promoter, like a lot of these football players are, right? Like, he doesn't promote himself at all.
No, he does not.
He ain't on social media. He's not coming up with celebration dances after he makes big plays. Like, he's just one of those guys who just goes about his business.
Yes.
If he was more of an attention-seeking self-promoter, he might be a bigger name nationally and get more recognition than he actually does.
Yeah, and my guess is it's one of those things, though, the players know. They know that, it's just like you say, when you're not preening, when you're not, we're the same way. Harry and I don't spend a lot of time blowing our own horns. Oh, wait. Okay, that's one of the major differences. He doesn't, I do. But yeah, you're right. I think that probably has something to do with it for sure. And I don't think you can undervalue or underestimate that veteran savvy. It's a cliche, I know, but there ain't much he hasn't seen on a football field, Tennessee. And I'm sure guys lean on him. I'm sure he's back there telling guys, here's what you got to watch out for. Look for this, look for that. And it certainly does help to have him in there. And he's...
Well, as KOC mentioned in the post-game speech afterwards when he handed him a game ball,
right?
Basically like, and he didn't say this part of it, I'm saying this part, that at his age, like, he might not have the same athleticism he once did, but as KOC said, he's in the right place every time.
Yeah.
He knows where to be on the football field.
It's
which is more important than anything.
I've always referred to it, tend to be, as cunning and guile. You might be a half step slower, maybe, but you like you say, you're in the right place because you've seen it before. You're watching, you go, I've seen this before. I've picked this up on film. I've faced this defensive coordinator before. I faced this quarterback, and I know what they generally do in those situations, and it's really good. And so,
and those kind of guys help out others around them as well.
Yes, they do. And so, again, it wasn't the prettiest game. Matter of fact, it got a little sketchy there on a couple of occasions, but they get the win. They go to 8-2. Kitties were by the way, I got, when I was critical of Sam Darnold last week for the 3 interceptions forcing the ball, I got chided by a number of listeners. Those are the ones that are really into their team, and anytime you are critical of them at all, their immediate reaction, the knee-jerk reaction, is to attack back, right?
Yep.
And so, boy, hey, just check Common. Goff threw another interception. What do you think about his 5 interceptions now? What do you think of this? What do you think of that? I'm not hearing from those people today. And
they're quiet, huh?
Well, I would suppose they would be, because I think 153.8 is the best quarterback, or is it 158.3? I think it's 158.3. That's the best quarterback rating that a quarterback can achieve. And funny, that's what Goff had yesterday. He had a perfect quarterback rating. He's the only quarterback in the history of pro football. There's a stat, I wished I would have jotted it down, that's had this or that along with the perfect quarterback rating, throwing for X amount of yards or completion percentage or something. No one's ever done it. A lot of people are saying it's never been done before. And he's been really, really good.
And the team basically played a perfect game.
They did. There's and will it last? I don't know. They lost Anzalone.
Is it weird to have your Lions be what many people now consider the best team in all of football?
Well, yeah, of course it is. It is.
It's not like Brian Dunsing in a comfortable sweater.
No.
You got to be uncomfortable.
Can I even say this? There's something about me. I know you're going to think this is insane. There's something about something that I missed.
About the Jimmy Johnson news conference?
Well, that, and also I kind of miss the Wobegon Lions days. Deuce and I used to get such a kick out of it. Like I say, when it would be, first series of the game, it's 3rd and 12 for the Lions. We'd be sitting on the couch and we'd slowly turn our heads and look at each other. And at the same time, we'd say, this has disaster written all over it. And sure enough, Stafford throws a pick 6, or it's an incomplete pass, or he gets sacked. Scoop and score. And then it's another Lions loss. And there was something comforting.
Or they get the first down, but a really dumb penalty sets them back.
Right, exactly. You'd see that so often. And every once in a while, you'd see a win that was kind of fun. The best was when the Ravens, this was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whenever it was, they're facing 4th and 29 deep in their own territory. Lions got the game wrapped up, and they decided rush 3, which I would blitz myself. If I've got the Hail Mary coming, I blitz. I don't. That's what I do. I'm just sorry. That's what I do. I blitz. Anyway, so Lamar Jackson.
Well, and they did that last night in the Chargers-Bengals game. Did you watch the end of that?
I didn't see the end of the game. I heard it was very dramatic. I turned it off when Cincinnati was down by like 20.
Yeah, so I didn't tune in until the fourth quarter, and it was
okay.
I saw the highlights up until that point, and so it was 27-27. Bengals kicker missed 2 field goals in like the last 6, 7, 8 minutes of that game. But it was Chargers scored with 18 seconds left, I believe, to take a touchdown lead. So Cincinnati got it to the, around midfield.
Right.
Got one final play. What do the Chargers do? They send 5.
They did.
They don't do the 3-man rush. They don't do the 4-man rush. They send 5. And Burrow was under pressure so quickly that he had to just chuck it up right away before the Bengals players could even get themselves set up in the end zone. They knock it down. It's like, why doesn't every team defensively do that? Give them no time to throw the ball.
And that's what I've been saying for years. I just talked about it the most recent one was the Bears one. When the Bears gave up the who was that against? Remember when the Bears gave up the...
that was against Washington.
Was it Washington?
Yeah.
When they gave up the Hail Mary there, and I said the same thing there. What are you rushing 3 for? So Detroit rushes 3. Lamar Jackson scampers around, throws it way downfield over the sideline across his body. Guy catches it, first down, and that's when Tucker kicked. Was it 66 yards? Because that's the record.
It was lengthy.
And it was the one that it hit the... I think that's the longest field goal in history. I think that was the game it happened. When Justin Tucker, and it hit off the crossbar and went over for 3 points. And Deuce and I know you find this crazy. We loved it. We said, we found another crazy and creative way to lose a game. It was ours. The game was over. And we give up a long pass on a hail, just down the sideline. And then, of course, we give up the field goal, too. So, they're 9-1 and they're good. Now, Anzalone broke his forearm. And he's a talented kid. He's been very good for them as a linebacker. So you know what we say in Detroit though, Teneby?
Next man up.
Correct. So they'll have to have the next man up. And
next kitty up.
Next kitty up. One of those. Already they're guessing. It could be ready for the playoffs, which is really. They've got the 98%. I saw it again today. I looked at. If the playoffs started today, right? And you look at the percentage for making the postseason, I think the Lions are at like 98%. And well, they should be, right? It'd be pretty hard to blow it now, I would think. I guess they could go on a losing streak and end up 9-7 and miss.
Well, even the Vikings at 8-2.
They're 63.
Well, they have a 3-game lead over the first team left out right now, which is the LA Rams. So 5-5. So that means the Lions have a 4-game lead.
Correct.
Over the last team that's out of the playoffs.
I thought I saw, for some reason, maybe I read that wrong. I thought they said the Vikings only had like a 67, and I thought, well, that's...
Oh, it's going to be way above that.
That's what I thought. What did I do with it? It's here somewhere. NFL playoff picture, we call it. NFL playoff picture. In your NFC playoff picture... Why is it doing this to me? See all. All right, I want to see all. And then now it's not doing what I want it to do. Why is this doing this to me? I actually tried to prepare a little bit today for this. This is why do I bother preparing? I looked at this website yesterday, and it had their percentages for making postseason play next to it. But it's gone now. But anyway, I think we know where the playoffs stand right now. So the Vikings would be in, Kitties would be in, Packers would be in, Cardinals would be in. Falcons still lead the division, despite that's just not a very good football team. So all's well that.
So I'm on one that's ESPN right now. Is that the one you were looking for?
Maybe that's what it was. Does it have percentages next to it? I mean, those are ridiculously flawed because remember the Twins were like 95% chance of making postseason play in, was that early September or late August, whatever it was.
So the Lions' percent chance to make the playoffs, it has the greater than sign.
Oh.
Greater than 99%.
Greater than 99%. So they should just start resting players now.
Eagles, greater than 99%.
Okay.
Vikings, 96% chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I must have read that wrong.
Do you know what the Lions' percent chance of making the Super Bowl, making the big game?
What is?
39%.
Is that big?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost 40%, yeah.
Yeah.
Phillies, 18%. Vikings at 11%.
But that's the beauty of, we talked about this last week, and I would think most people, I think, would feel the same way, is it's sort of like the NCAA basketball tournament. You can have the Cinderella story, one shining moment. We see it all the time. That first day of the tournament, 15 beats a 2. Or a 14 beats a 3 out of nowhere, right? Some team makes a deep run. Well, I'm an 11 seed in the Final Four. Same thing here, right? Sure, the line's 39%. Let's say they get the first round bye, and all of a sudden they get blindsided in in the divisional round of the playoffs, and get it's only one game. So that's why those percentage chances of making the big game I take with a grain of salt.
Do you know who the Vikings' opponent would be?
Who?
If the playoffs started today?
The Pack?
The Atlanta Falcons.
Ooh.
You like that?
Yeah.
You like that?
Which we've got coming up soon, right?
Yeah, we got them up 3 weeks.
3 weeks from now. Let's take a break. When we come back, we might start with 5-3-4. I don't know if we should do that. I don't know if you put any questions together.
I think we could start with it, and then we'll see.
And see what KOC is supposed to address the media's day after the game news conference is scheduled for 1 o'clock. That'll be next here on the Common Man program on the Fan.